dear guests and members of Toastmaster Club. Thank you for coming to our open house. As a tradition in our Toastmaster Club, first we start every meeting with an invocation to bring the right spirit into our mind for the meeting. Please all rise for invocation given by Carmelina.
I'd like to open with a quote from Winston Churchill. Confidence is what it takes to speak your mind. Confidence is what it takes to sit down and listen. Thank you.
And at this time, I'd like to invite a Toastmaster of the day, a person who's going to conduct a meeting for the rest of this hour. Please welcome Carmelina.
Welcome everyone to our Deseaa Toastmasters open house. Thank you so much for coming. Such a great turnout. I'm going to turn this up just a little bit. Thank you. Every club meeting centers around a theme. Excuse me. Every club meeting centers around a theme, and the theme for today is Speak Your Mind. This is my New Year's resolution, to speak my mind in a way that honors my thoughts and my feelings and maintains good connection with the person I'm speaking with. Toastmasters has been empowering people to speak their minds since 1924. Most people think of Toastmasters as a club that helps people improve their public speaking skills. And this is true. But Toastmasters is much more than just that. I'd like to share a little bit of my experience. Sorry, I'm getting another call. I'm so sorry. President Obama? Yes, thank you for calling back. I have the revised healthcare plan for dental, and I really want to go over it with you. Yes, unfortunately I'm tied up right now, but I'll call you as soon as I'm done. Thank you so much. I am so sorry for this interruption. This is just too much. But I'm glad it happened because it brings up a good point. The main benefit of my membership to Toastmasters, even more than public speaking skills, is a new confidence in myself and in the value of my opinion. This confidence seeps into all areas of life, especially in dealing with people at work and beyond work. This confidence allows me to approach anyone, even heads of state, if I think that they will help me reach my goals as a public health dentist and as an educator of young dentists and physicians. Before Toastmasters, anytime I had to speak my mind, it was as if a crowd of voices gathered around me, and they would say mean things like, "Who do you think you are? You have nothing important to say. Nobody wants to hear this." Anybody know these voices? As a result of coming to Toastmasters meetings week after week over the past couple years, I've had the repeated experience of being listened to intently and respectfully. I've had the repeated experience of being gently and supportively coached on how I could say something more powerfully, more clearly. As a result of these experiences, that crowd of voices that used to follow me around has tapered off to an occasional visitor. to which I say, to whom I say, thank you for sharing. Gotta go speak now. What you will now have a chance to experience is a typical club meeting. The format of the meetings is masterful, and it consists of 3 main parts. The first part is prepared speeches, and you're about to hear from 2 of our club members delivering speeches they've prepared for you. The second part is extemporaneous speaking. That's where we're called on to speak about something that we have no preparation on. A fun, a little nerve-wracking section for some of us. The third and last part is the evaluation part, and that's where we get feedback on different aspects of our performance during that meeting. So our first speaker is Judy Cohen. Judy is a former corporate marketing director turned entrepreneur. She's a speaker, a speaking coach, a published author, and she runs and owns a company called Red Hot Presentations. She helps her clients be the speaker that everybody remembers. Her book, Red Hot Presentations, this is shameless advertising here. I have this book, and it's a little jewel. You can find this book on Amazon, and you can learn more about Judy on redhotpresentations.com. About her speech is a project from a manual called The Entertaining Speaker. The project is to develop a speech for after-dinner entertainment, about 8 to 10 minutes. It should entertain the audience by weaving humorous stories around a theme, and it should be lighthearted and relaxed. The title is Slappy Hooper, the world's biggest, fastest, bestest sign painter. Let's welcome Judy Cohen.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. You've heard about Paul Bunyan, the greatest lumberjack of all time. You've heard about Pecos Bill, the greatest cowboy. Now let me tell you about Slappy Hooper, the world's biggest, fastest, bestest sign painter. Oh, you better believe Slappy was biggest. Why, he was 7 feet tall with shoulders to match. He weighed 300 pounds, not including his cap, and overalls, and brush, and bucket. And fastest? Just give him an 8-inch brush, slip, slop, slap. The job was done. And so smooth, you'd never see a brush stroke. And you bet Slappy was bestest. That was on account of his pictures. No one else ever painted them so true to life. In fact, some people said they were too true to life. Slappy's trouble started when he painted a huge red rose on a sign for Rose's Florist Shop. Why, Slappy, that sign looks so real, said Miss Red Rose, the owner. Why, I can just about smell the fragrance. But a few days later, Rose Red fluttered into Slappy's sign shop. Slappy, that sign of yours was too good, said Red Rose. Why, the bees got wind of it and swarmed all over that flower trying to get in. They scared away all my customers. That was bad enough. Well, you should see what's happened now. When Slappy got to Rose's flower shop, he saw that the bees were gone, but the rose on the sign had withered and died. No one wants to buy from a florist with a withered flower on her sign, said Red Rose. That's the last thing you'll paint for me, Slappy Hooper. The story got around, but most folks just laughed. They still wanted Slappy to do their signs. His next job was to paint a billboard for the Eagle Messenger Service. Slappy painted a bird 3 times larger than life. Amazing, said Mr. Baldwin Eagle. Why, it looks so real, I could swear it blinked. Wait a minute, I did see it blink. Then that bird spread its wings and flew right off that sign. That sign of yours was too good, Slappy Hooper. That's the last thing you'll paint for me. Folks were getting scared to hire Slappy. But finally, he got a job painting a sign for the Sunshine Travel Agency. He was to paint a man and a woman on a beach, toasting under a hot sun. He painted it the day after a big snowstorm. Wonderful, said Mr. Ray Sunshine. Why, that sun makes me feel hot. And look, the snow on the sidewalk under the sign has melted. But a few days later, Slappy got a call. Slappy, that sign of yours was too good. Get down here right away. Slappy got to the travel agency. He saw that the sidewalk and the street under the sun was covered with beach chairs. People were sitting around in bathing suits and sunglasses, sipping lemonade and splashing suntan lotion. They're blocking traffic and the mayor blames me, said Mr. Sunshine. Besides, they're not going to need my travel agency if they take their vacations here. You gotta do something, Slappy. So Slappy got to work and he painted the sun much hotter. Pretty soon people were sweating buckets and complaining of sunburn. Then they packed up and left. Good job, Slappy, said Mr. Sunshine. Then he gasped, look at that. The man and the woman on the sign were walking off too. Just then, a lick of flame shot up the wall on the building across the street. Slappy's sign had set it on fire. Pretty soon, fire engines clanged down the street and firefighters turned hoses on the flame. Do something else, Slappy, cried Mr. Sunshine. So Slappy got back to work. He painted a storm cloud across the sign, but he had to jump back just in time because his cloud was shooting bullets of lightning. Then the cloud started to rain. It overflowed the sign and flooded all of Main Street. Never again, Slappy Hooper, cried Mr. Sunshine. After that, no one on earth would hire Slappy. It looked as though his sign painting days were done. Slappy felt so low, he decided to take his paint and brushes and throw them in the nearest river. He hauled his stuff up to the highest bridge in town, and just as he was ready to chuck it all, a voice thundered out beside him. Don't drop that gear, Slappy. You're going to need it. Standing next to Slappy was a man almost as big as Slappy himself. He wore pink splotched white coveralls and a cap with 2 little angel wings sticking out. Who are you? asked Slappy. Why, I'm Michael from the Heavenly Sign Company, thundered the man. The boss has had an eye on you for some time, Slappy, and he likes your work. He's got a job for you to do if you don't mind working in the rain. Tell me about it, said Slappy. We need a rainbow painted on Wednesday. Now, we usually do all of the rainbows ourselves, but it's going to rain in a bunch of places on Wednesday, and we could sure use the help. I'm your man, said Slappy. On Wednesday, Slappy rented a cannon and put it in a big cow pasture. He took 2 ropes. On one end, he threaded some sky hooks. On the other end, he tied them to his scaffold. He put the sky hooks in the cannon and shot them straight up. Sure enough, they caught the sky. Slappy felt the first few drops of rain, took his paint and his brushes and put them on the scaffold and climbed on. He hoisted himself up, and Slappy took out his 8-inch brush and started to paint. Slip, slap, slap. Just as he was done, the sun came out and lit up all his work. You'd never seen a finer rainbow. It had every color you can imagine, each one blending perfectly into the next. Just then, Slappy felt a jolt. He looked up to see what had happened. The sun had run into his sky hose. Slappy closed his eyes and waited for the long drop to the ground. It never happened. He looked up to see why. The skyhawks had caught on the sun itself. The sun was taking his rig for a ride across the sky. Now, any other painter would have been scared, but not Slappy Hooper. He was enjoying the ride. He went a good distance when suddenly Michael appeared on the scaffold beside him. "The boss liked your rainbow, Slappy," thundered Michael. "You mean it wasn't too good? If it isn't too good, it's not good enough. That's how we figure. Anyhow, now that you're here, the boss has got another job for you to do, if you don't mind working odd hours." "Tell me about it," said Slappy. "It's the sunrise and sunset. The boss has been doing it since time began. He's getting tired. He'd like to give someone else a chance." "I'm your man," said Slappy. Slappy's been up there ever since. Oh, you can't see him and all with the sun being so bright, but he's up there all the same. Every day and every night, the sun pulls his rig around the world, and when he gets to a new horizon, he reaches up with his 8-inch brush. Slip, slap, slap. The job is done, and so smooth, there's never a brush stroke in sight.
Thank you, Judy. Magical story. How did she come up with this? What an imagination. Our next speaker is our very own club president, Ivan Baldychev. Ivan has a PhD in chemical engineering, and he has a special interest in energy issues. An interesting fact about Ivan, he represented the U.S. in a World Rowing Championship in 2007 as a graduate student. Ivan's speech is a project from the manual called Technical Presentations. It's about 10 minutes long, and the title of his speech is Energy Return Per Investment, Statistics and Trends. Let's welcome Ivan.
I apologize. Wait for the projector to turn on. In the meantime, I want to talk about energy. Why energy is important. Energy is the lifeblood of our economy. You know, without electricity or our iPhones, iPads, or little gadgets are nothing more than paperweights. Energy is really important for our economy. And this graph illustrates it very well. It shows GDP as a dotted line and our energy production in the US for the last almost 200 years. And if you started at 1850, we were not making a lot. And as time went on, we hit the coal boom and our economy grew. And then we found oil and our economy grew even bigger and we took off. And that's how we got to total world to be, because we consume energy to drive our economy. And of course, energy costs money. I found that I can appreciate it very well when I get my winter bill, especially this winter. But what some of us don't realize is that energy costs energy. And the study that I'm going to present was around that concept. How much energy does it cost to get energy? And to explore that issue, they devised a concept called energy return on investment, which is simply energy cost of energy. Or in mathematical terms, It's an energy return to society divided by energy required to get that energy. To show an example, let's say, look at the oil rig. So you have 100 barrels of oil inside the ground. To get that 100 barrels, you need to burn 10 barrels to drive the machinery, to heat the homes of people who work there. So what you actually get out of the ground is not 100 barrels, but only 90. And then you take that 90, you have to transform it into chemicals, fuels, diesel, what the refineries do at Delaware River. And that takes about 27 barrels. Then you take those products and you have to transport them to our homes, to our gas stations, wherever they need to be. That takes another 5 barrels. And the real kicker is that then you have to support all the roads, all the infrastructure, all those workers. We keep our economy going. That takes another 37. And at the end, you're left at the gas station with only 20 barrels of oil energy. What it means, so every time you put 20 gallons of gas or diesel in your car, about 80 gallons of fuel had to be burned to get that 20 gallons to you at that point, and for you to be able to drive to that gas station. But study, though, doesn't look at the whole cycle, but it looks just at this part of how much energy does it take to take out that 100 barrels out. And why it is important? It's because, let's say, I have to put 50 barrels back into it to get $100. So I only get 150 barrels of oil to support all this stuff. So by the time I get to here, oh, I got nothing. And the authors did a very good sociological study on what kind of quality of energy we need to support our society. And they devised this energy pyramid. So on the bottom of the energy pyramid is our basic activities that we need to do to sustain ourselves. We don't need high quality fuels. The energy return on investment only 1.1 to 3, and that forms the basis of our economy. As we go up in our activities, like grow food, have it in family, we need a higher quality fuels. We need higher return of investment, energy investment. But other things, education, healthcare, require even higher energy return on investment because you need to support those people. So instead of them drilling holes in the ground to find oil, they can go outside and, I don't know, run a feeder or teach other people. Of course, this picture gets even more complicated because there's different types of fuels, there's different types of energy. There's thermal fuel, which is our usual fossil fuels, and we can use for heating. We can power a steam turbine to turn small machinery. You can use it as fuel to make chemicals. And then there's electricity, which is a slightly different type of energy. And it's considered more higher quality energy because it can do all the stuff above and even more. It can do lightning, it can do electrolysis, it can do very nice things. All that's, so what's the state of our energy return on investment in the US? How are we doing right now? And the authors really put together a great presentation around that. And you'd be surprised that coal is still the king of energy in our economy. They talk about solar, they talk about oil, but the coal is still the king. It still gets us the best bang for the buck, about 25. Oil and gas is about 20. The tar sands, the oil shale, the stuff you hear about that comes from South Dakota or Canada, and it's okay. The ethanol and diesel from biomass, which we hear quite a lot. Yeah, especially here at DuPont, they're like barely making it above the 1. So, but there are new technologies that you can give a discount on that. Next. The electricity is way better. The nuclear is comparable to oil and gas. Hydroelectric is huge because you can look at a Hoover Dam and realize that you can put a dam 100 years ago and it's still making the same electricity, it's still making the same quality fuel. So the return on hydroelectric power is huge because you don't need to log. Of course, hydroelectric, you can't build hydroelectric dams everywhere. There's only a few places in the world where you can do that. Geothermal is kind of low because we don't invest a lot of money into technology to drive that technology to get better returns on energy. Wind and solar here are quite high, comparable to coal and gas. And what authors don't really include in their paper is the effects of energy storage on wind and solar power, which would bring those values down. Of course, to look at it historically, where we've been and how we got here, it's very interesting. this graph illustrates very well. It shows energy return on investments as the x-axis, and this is 100% of the percentage of energy. And it shows in the dark area what energy we get at a particular ERI out to us, to use for us, and the lighter shaded area shows how much energy we have to spend. So historically, when we were at ERI of like 50, 45, you could, when we were in like Texas oil fields, you can just like stomp your ground and things just gush out. With no, you can do like basically just sit on the ground and get rich. Energy return on investment was huge. Of course, as time went on, we went to global oil and sandwiches. You can think of that as Persian Gulf. And things got a little worse. Well, not too bad. We still get most of it, things back. And then now we move into this fancy stuff, wind, nuclear, and we're facing a cliff, energy return cliff, because at some point we might, at this low values, just a little shift can drop the energy return on energy very low. On a reverse token, those new technologies like corn, ethanol, the diesel from biomass, very low, but even small change in technology can bring huge returns on energy returns. So it's very exciting, but at the same time it's very scary, because, like, you know, where are we going to cross? Of course, to go a little more detail, let's look at oil and gas in the US and how things changed over time. For oil and gas in the US, we've been growing our energy returns up until the 70s when we hit our oil peak, because our technology is improving, we're getting better at extracting oil, and then hit an oil crisis where we ran out of oil. And that prompted us to put huge investment into developing new technology, into developing oil fields on a seafloor in Alaska. It was a huge project that drew lots of energy and money into it, and that's why things dropped so precipitously right afterwards. And then we ran out of things to drill and find reserves, and it went back up because we just couldn't spend any energy on anything. Just all we could do is just pump oil out. But the investment was worth it. With coal, the next one with gas, it's also very interesting where the gas in Canada is very high because they started to develop their fields a lot later than the US. And therefore their energy return right now is very high. They have easy fields, but it's going down, trending down. The gas started a lot earlier, like 50, almost 100 years earlier, and we were a lot lower. You can even see here the uptick from fracking starting off, where we start putting more energy into tapping fields, doing fracking. That takes energy. But then we get technology benefits, and we get more energy out of our ground. The coal story illustrates this one even better. The coal story illustrates the technology impact even better. We were quite high, and then by 1990s, we all trended down as well, which all energy resources did. But when we went back up, and why did it happen? Because of technology. Back in the day, we were doing shaft underground mining, but old school. You dig a hole in the ground, you go in there. You needed lots of people. It was very dangerous, and we still do it, but it's not very economic. And then, in response to that, we developed strip mining, the mountaintop removal mining. And it's really brought our ERIs back up and get our better return on energy. The Chinese, they still stuck with shaft mining, and they're kind of low. Hopefully we'll switch over pretty soon. In summary, on this paper, I want to tell you that, well, all our major fuels are slowly going down. And that's concerning because we are facing that energy cliff. We have lots of coal, but it's dirty. You know that from air quality fights in our Congress. Renewable energy is still a small part of our whole picture. And there's lots of uncertainties about how we're going to get it to meet the oil and gas on that cliff curve. But on the positive side, there's a lot more. There's a lot more positive than negative. We're a technology company here, and develop new technologies, and it's improving every day. We're getting better energy return on investment for new technologies. Yes, coal is dirty, but it's abundant, and for the last 100+ years, we need to take our time to reach that transition to the new energies and new and better returns. And of course, renewables, through technology, are getting more efficient, they need less capital, and we also, what's important about renewables is that they produce higher quality electricity, which is a lot better than heat. Therefore, I want to finish up my talk with just one simple sentence. The future is scary, but it's, at the same time, it's very bright. I'm hoping that we here can bridge that gap through technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Vaughn. So that concludes the prepared speeches. We move on to part 2, which is the extemporaneous speaking part of our meeting. This is run by the Table Topics Master of the Day, Michele Chinowitt. Let's welcome Michele.
Welcome, Toastmasters members and honored guests. So your alarm didn't go off, you ran in late, you sat at the back of your work meeting, or your classroom, or your seminar, and you're trying to be inconspicuous, and what happens? They call on you to speak on the topic at hand, which you haven't been paying attention to. Oh, that's right, I'm a Toastmaster, and I've done table topics before. I got this. What is table topics? For me, it's the most fun part of our Toastmasters meetings every week. It's a chance to push the envelope, get up, make yourself speak on whatever the topic is at hand. It's a great opportunity to just make yourself do it. Today's theme is Speak Your Mind. So I have some topics prepared based on the theme. What we do is call on members who are required to speak on table topics. Or we call on guests, and it is an option for you. You can decline if that would move you. I've been a member of this Toastmasters group for going on 2 years, and I just have to say what a wonderful opportunity it's been. And I encourage you all to keep coming back after today's open house. So with that, we'll start table topics. By the way, you have 1 to 2 minutes. Are we being timed? Okay. When the green light goes off, that's your first warning as to you've reached that first time period, which is a minute. The yellow light means a minute and a half. The red light means 2 minutes. If you want to look over there. Or if you have a good sense of time, don't worry about it. We usually can only go over 30 seconds if you're in a contest or that type of thing, but we do timings. So, first topic, I'm going to call on a member so you can kind of get the feel of this. Do I have any volunteers? Or actually, I am looking at Mike Barker, who is one of my favorite speakers in our group and has been a member for, I don't know,
more than you would care to know.
decades.
Thank you, Madam Topics Master. Fellow Toastmasters and our honored guests, all of you are well aware, unless you've been living in a vacuum, there are many issues, and some of which involve our life. Thinking about those world issues, some of us even become passionate about. If I were to share an issue with you that I feel passionate about, I would have to tell you that I am passionate about child advocacy. And I feel so strongly about that, that even at the national level, Even at an international level, we need to do everything we possibly can to advocate for the well-being and the benefit of our children. Notice I said our children, because I feel very strongly that any child, no matter what their age, is our responsibility. Children who have been neglected, who've been abused, who are deprived of some of their basic rights, are our children. And we need to wake up and do something about it. What will that involve? It involves you. It involves me. It involves organizations that are designed to benefit these children, that will reach out and grab them and embrace them and let them know that they are valuable human beings with great resources and great potentials. But even at the personal level, even as you and I as individuals, we can reach out and touch somebody, especially a child in need. So, Madam Topics Master, the topic that I am passionate about on an international level is child advocacy.
And I promise you did not see that topic. Wonderful. Okay, I have a few more. Do I have any volunteers? They're not that tough. That was the toughest one.
Michele.
Come on up.
Sure. I was actually pointing to the people in front of me, but they took my hand from under. My name's Dan.
Dan, that's all. Welcome, Dan.
I got to read the first one, wear my glasses. Which is even better because I can make up my own topic. So you don't have my glasses, so I'm trying to get this whisper in my ear. And I just like you whispering in my ear. Now, Table Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters, guests, distinguished speakers, speak about something local. This is going to be very local. It's about as wide as this room. We all have a fear. What is the fear we all have? Or most of us had at one time or another. Public speaking. That's why we're here. I used to be one of the people sitting in the back, hiding, didn't want to step up, did not want to step up for a table topic at all. And actually, I was not one. I had the gift of gab. I like to talk, but I didn't know how to communicate. This is the beauty of Toastmasters. It's about communication. We all want to be up here, we just don't know how to be up here. That's what it is all about. It's about practice, practice, practice. I always learned that was the way to get to Carnegie Hall. It's the way to win competitions and things within Toastmasters. It's about being a better person. It's a way of learning to get rid of the fear. It's not so hard. It's not. I loved it. I was actually pointing to the people in front of me because they did not want to come up here. I said, right here, right here. I'll do this. But again, this is table topics. It's about what you want to be. This is where it starts. Speaking off the cuff about anything, about everything, and not having fear. Now table topics.
We have time for one more. You're in Toastmasters, aren't you, Dan?
I was at one time.
Great job. Okay. One more. Do I have a volunteer from any of our guests? Don't be shy. It's a good chance to. John, come on up. John Shelley, who I know works for
Clear Channel Outdoor.
And he's our guest today. So, that.
Thank you, Madam, whatever your
Tabletop.
What am I passionate about? Well, I'm passionate about a lot of different things, but
As I was sitting there and as I was listening to the other speakers, I thought, you know, if I had the opportunity to talk about what I'm passionate about, is my family. I grew up as an only child. I don't know if you have any only child people here today, but I didn't have brothers, didn't have sisters, obviously, but my wife and I, we met roughly about 20 years ago, and we decided, let's have one child and let's see how it goes. We had one, and she was extremely colicky. Anybody ever have a colicky baby? You know that, Georgia, I feel for you, because colicky hit every midnight, day after day, while Abby was going from newborn to age 1, and then kind of calmed down. And we're like, well, we can't take her back anywhere, so we'll keep her. And we had another one, and that was Hannah. And Hannah was the love of my life. When I would come home from work, she would come running, daddy, 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 and it was just a great thing. I said, Laurie, we got to have another one. And so we had a third one, and that was Isaac. And Isaac is so special. He's a special needs child. He's autistic. And he has helped me grow. I haven't helped him. He's helped me grow and learn so much about life and the value of other people in this community, like I heard from other people talk about this morning. After Isaac was Elijah. And Elijah's my little man. He's just, Dad, everybody know a kid is like, Dad, what can I do for you today? What can I do for you? He's the love of my life as well. Long story short, my wife and I sit back now and we watch all 9 of our children. And you either got to be passionate or off your nut. But I look at it as passion. I'm really excited to be a father of 9. We have stretched ourselves, my wife Laurie and I, to help other families through homeschooling, which we're very involved in, through church ministries and so on and so forth. But I encourage you, like our other speakers said this morning, find a child that needs help. There's always one. We can't do enough for the children in our communities. Build up their self-esteem, build up their self-value, and then they'll be leaders like you guys are today. Thank you very much.
Another natural, right?
Yeah.
I can't tell you how much I laugh and cry, thank you, in Toastmasters, and what great people we are, so thank you again. Adam Toastmasters.
One of the things I love about table topics is it inevitably leads people to speak about themselves, as you can see. And you really get to know people on a personal level. So we move on to the third and last part of our meeting now, which is the evaluation part. We started off the meeting with Winston Churchill's quote, "Courage is what it takes to speak your mind, and courage is what it takes to sit down and listen." This is the part of the meeting where we have a chance to listen to feedback about different aspects of our speaking during the meeting. This part is led by the general evaluator of the day, and that will be Nancy Lewis. Welcome, Nancy.
Thank you very much. As Carmelina told you, this portion of the meeting is our evaluation section. This is really why you're here. When you join Toastmasters, you come because, why? A couple reasons. Maybe you're afraid to speak. Maybe you're one of these people that sits in the back of the room and never wants to contribute. But the other overriding reason you join Toastmasters is you want to get better. And how do you get better? You get better by practicing, but you also get better by having somebody give you some feedback and saying, you know, if you'd done that, you really would have been much more forceful. You would have gotten much more impact. So this is really the fun part of being here. What I'd like to do next is introduce our evaluator. We have an evaluator for Judy's speech, and our evaluator is Berlin Stokes. Berlin?
Fellow Toastmasters and our honored guests, my job is to try to figure out exactly what Judy was attempting to say to the audience, and then to figure out how she said it, and whether or not there's some things that she could say or she could do that can make it better if she's going to do it the next time. Judy's job was to present to you an after-dinner speech. What's an after-dinner speech? Okay, so you finished Thanksgiving dinner. You're in turkey coma halfway, you're sitting there. The guys are watching the game, a few of the girls as well. But there are a few folks that are gathered around the table, perhaps in the kitchen. Someone says, have I got a story for you? What Judy shared was the great story, the very neat story of Slappy Hooper, the world's biggest, fastest, bestest sign painter. It's a great story for this particular audience. Not only have we had lunch, we may not be in turkey coma right now, but we've had lunch. It seemed to be a story about doing your best no matter what folks say. No matter really what else happens, because at some point, when you do your best, when you try to make yourself as good as you possibly can be, you will be recognized, you will be rewarded, and you'll find your place where you can make the most impact, really, to the entire world, just as Slappy did. Some of the things that Judy did, she demonstrated a lot of techniques that we teach within Toastmasters. She had fantastic eye contact, great gestures. In a room this big, your gestures have to be big. So the folks up front were probably like, whoa, big gestures. But the folks in the back, I watched the speech from over there in that corner. The folks in the back were thoroughly entertained, and they could see as well as the folks in the middle. So that was a great use of gestures, of eye contact, of volume, which is the problem I tend to have. I'll probably be hoarse after this. One of the things that you could do, because you used a lot of vocal variety, one of the things that you could do is perhaps get specific accents or tweaks of the voice for each individual character, perhaps to help delineate them a little bit more. If you were going to do that again, do the speech again, that would be one of my recommendations to make it a little more powerful, perhaps a little more entertaining. But I could see from back in the room the entire audience fixated on this story and wondering exactly what was going to happen with Slappy next. Judy, thank you very much for giving us a prime example of a wonderful tall tale that anyone could enjoy after dinner.
Next up, as part of our evaluation, we're going to hear from our timer. John, give us the timer's report.
So I am a timekeeper, so speaker Judy did a great job on 9:47, and Ivan, you have a long, but in the ballpark about 12:05, and mine table topic about 2:26. Dan, you did a great job, 1.14, and John, you have a 2:09.
Thank you.
And Willie, you have exactly 30 seconds.
Thank you, John. As you can see, as part of a Toastmasters meeting, things have specific time limits. And just as in real life, when you're going to be giving a speech, you'll usually be told you might have 20 minutes, you might have 5 minutes, you might have 3 minutes. So we practice trying to keep to the time. We have a little timing machine that turns on and off so you can watch and gauge how well you're doing. The next part of our evaluation is going to be our ah counter. And Mike will do that. Mike, would you give a little introduction to the ah counter?
The job of the ah counter is to look for those little glitches that detract from our presentation. I don't know if our guests are aware of this, but anytime you listen to speakers, even like President Obama, who called our Toastmaster of the day. But oftentimes when you hear him speak, his speech will be peppered with and maybe even an occasional what we would call a double clutch. It is these distractions that the counter looks for. Let me begin by commending a few of our participants today. Carmelina, Judy, and Lynn, your presentations were flawless. There wasn't a single glitch that I noticed in any of your presentations. Yvonne, let me critique what I found in your presentation. You had 3 inappropriate uses of and. And is fine to use when it is a conjunction and actually joins 2 thoughts together, and finally in a single sentence. The problem with it is that we tend to compound our sentences one right after another, and we just go and. That's the issue with the repetitive use of and. You likewise had 1 use of a so that was that way. You did have a double clutch with a how. That's where you begin with 1 word and you repeat it inadvertently. Michele, there was 1 only 1. So I will congratulate you on that. Dan, you had 1 you know. We tend to bring that into our presentation sometimes just as a crutch for us so that our thoughts can catch up with our mouth at the rate of speaking. John, you had 3 ahs. You had a double clutch with the and. And then John, our guest, there were 2 ahs. But as you got started, you were fine. There were no flaws that followed that. So, Madam General Evaluator, that's our counter's report.
Thank you very much. And now I'd like to bring up Jeff Thompson, who's going to give the grammarian's report. And can you give a little description of the grammarian's role? What would you like me to do? What do you want me to do? Just like we have all counters and timers, we also have a grammarian. And as you might guess, the grammarian's role is to look for all those little slip-ups, those little errors in grammar that we make. And again, we're not trying to point fingers or, make you feel bad, but you're here to learn, you're here to get better. And even if you're not the person that made the mistake or made the little glitch, just the fact that you're in the room and you're listening to someone else's evaluation makes you more aware yourself. You find yourself, when you're listening to a speaker, saying, oh, that person keeps doing ahs, and you almost start ticking them off on a piece of paper until you stop yourself. But that's the real beauty of participating in meetings and listening to somebody else's reports. I'd like to bring up Jeff to do the grammarian's report, please.
I'm not a Toastmaster, I'm just a visitor, but I sit in a lot of sessions, so I listen to a lot of grammar, and I have to say that this meeting today was almost error-free when it comes to grammar. In fact, the only one that wasn't a double clutch or an and or an extra was actually Carmelina, who started wanting to say to who, it really should have been to whom. She corrected herself as she was speaking. But that's the sort of thing. A lot of people will say, you and I go, but for you and I, which of course is incorrect, it should be for you and me. None of those types of errors that I heard. So it was just one. It was a very error-free meeting.
Now, as part of the last part of the evaluation, I get to evaluate the whole meeting. This is a challenge for this meeting because it's different. It's not one of our normal meetings. We did follow many of the same procedures that we have. But Carmelina, as our Toastmaster of the day, had to make some adaptations in order to fit in this large crowd and all the things you need to do. do, and I think she did an excellent job. I really enjoyed her invocation. I enjoyed the way that President Obama gave her a call as a result of her growing confidence in herself. And I believe this was a good meeting to showcase to you all the different things that you do in Toastmasters, how you learn, the way you experience the meeting. I'm really glad that you all participated, and I hope to see you again next week at one of our regular meetings. So I'd like to turn this back over to Carmelina.
Being able to speak well, to speak your mind, takes more than just confidence and practice. It takes discernment to know what, when, how to say what's on your mind. I'm remembering a story of when I was about 10 years old, and I was waiting in line for the diving board at the local swim club. There was a very large man bouncing all of himself on the diving board. I turned to the little boy in front of me and I said, "Wow, look at that fat man." And the little boy turned to me, and with a sad face he said, "That's my dad." I remember wanting to crawl under the diving board and never come out. This was my first lesson in the importance of being very careful when speaking my mind, or I can make a mess. There's a quote on this topic that I've been stumbling on lately, and it goes like this. Before speaking, ask yourself, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Some have attributed this to the Buddha. I think it may have been popularized by a poem called The Three Gates. So I'd like to close with this poem by Beth Day. If you are tempted to reveal a tale to you someone has told about another, make it pass before you speak 3 gates of gold. These narrow gates, first, is it true? Then, is it needful? In your mind, give truthful answer. And the next is last and narrowest. Is it kind? And if to reach your lips at last, it passes through these gateways 3, then you may tell the tale, nor fear what result of speech may be. I'd like to thank all my Toastmasters here today for giving me the chance to practice speaking my mind so I can do it with more confidence and more skill. And now I'd like to welcome back to the lectern Yvonne to close our meeting.
First, I would like to get this done over quickly and be out here on time at 1 o'clock. We really appreciate your time for showing up here. We value your time. Therefore, we usually try to be on time. And it's one of our biggest rules in this, like you have to be out of here by 1. So, I want to start with a raffle. That's why we're here for, and not here for Toastmasters. This book's. It's a red hot presentation by our own Judy Cohen. And Carmelina is going to assist me with drawing names out of a basket. Are you ready?
Irfan Patel.
You have 2 Patels. Which one? Second place is a novel by our own Toastmaster member, Michele. It's her second book, second novel, and it's based on the Bible stories. She's our accomplished author. She's working on her 3rd book, and I think She derives her sustenance from writing this story, so she must be good. Again.
Scott Callert.
And the last, but the most prized, is the pottery, handmade by our own Carmelina in her spare time.
John Bishop.
Thank you, John. At this point, I'd like to close our meeting and say a couple of words. I hope we showed you what a wonderful speaker you can become for Toastmasters. At the same time, I hope we showed you that you can be at any level of skill to start the Toastmaster journey. I mean, you can look at John and say, well, if he can do it, boy, I can do it too. And I'm actually very proud of John for being so going out and being not ashamed of doing this and taking his role on. I would one more time, as a guest, you're welcome to come to any of our meetings on Friday at noon at the cafeteria. All you have to do is, if you are on site or if a DuPont employee, you can just come on by. You don't have to let us know. If you are a non-DuPont person and need a pass, just let Mike Barker or me know, and we'll get you a pass and we'll get you in. You're always welcome. You can come as many times as you want. You can do the whole Toastman journey without becoming our member and, you know, saving like $70 a year. Or you can just go and join and just enjoy the fun. And Mike has one more word.
Before we let out, those of our visitors, our non-DuPont visitors, whom I escorted in and with a few others this morning, please meet me in the lobby out here before you leave. Don't let me out of your sight. You'll find out why.
Thank you very much.